how is Flexitricity is coping with Corona and this pandemic and this crisis?
Okay, so it's an ever-changing picture. During the period leading up to the lockdown, it became clear that something of that nature was going to occur. So we moved our operations to a kind of a COVID-19 state of working, which meant that essentially our operations team was successfully delivering that full service in lockdown conditions before the lockdown arrived, and they've been doing that ever since. It's worked very well. That part is actually extraordinarily well. They've done an extremely good job at setting that up. And it's not just the operations team, but it's the IT people that sit alongside them that have made that work. And I'm very pleased by that. I think like everybody, we had some fears that bandwidth or other difficulties might get in the way, but that hasn't been the case. In terms of dealing with the electricity system, we, like everybody else, have been having to relearn the market as the market has evolved and see what the issues are that the system operator and others need to solve, see where our place in that market is, and to place our customers' capacity in the right zones to do that job.
Mm-hmm. And actually, this was my next question regarding the implication of this pandemic on the energy sector. And with the energy demand having hit a record low during the previous month, and most people saying that the reduced activity across industries, commercial and industrial companies, will continue to keep demand below the seasonal norm. What are your expectations regarding the energy sector and the impact that the coronavirus will have on this field?
What we know that we've already broken records in terms of minimum demand. We're going to break them again. It would be quite surprising if we got through the bank holiday weekend, the VE Day weekend, without another demand minimum record being set. National Grid has already taken the step of entering into commercial arrangements with some of the nuclear capacity to bring that down. That's very rare because the nuclear generators tend to be very rigid baseload generators that really don't want to come off. So that action, I understand, has been taken. You've got also the launch of the ODFM service, optional downward flexibility management. That's brand new. That, I think, will get quite a lot of attention. We're very interested and involved in that, so that's another opportunity for the customers. But then, of course, at the outside of that, you've got the emergency measures that National Grid's putting in place, and that could affect our customers in theory. Although it's set up as an emergency measure, the ability of National Grid to turn off embedded power stations without compensation is something that we're obviously concerned about.
What do you think is the biggest challenge during this period in terms of coping with your customers and clients? And if you can tell us a little bit more about the fact that you have become the first virtual lead party to trade on balancing mechanism?
Yeah, I think for us the biggest challenge is in fact almost an information challenge. It's about digesting the changes in the industry situation and these new services, these new measures that come in very quickly, and then presenting those to our customers as quickly as we can, so that they know what they need to do. But in doing that, we also need to be delivering our recommendations. We think we should do this in response to that based on your type of power station capacity, or if it's not a CHP, then the load type that they may have and the flexibility that they've got. So we're having to be pretty quick in digesting all this new information in respect of that. But you mentioned the VLP, the virtual lead party position that we took. As far as I know, I believe that we're the only active aggregator registered as a VLP. Although there's obviously time for other people to come through, and we expect them to. We were the first to bring live a site in the market access route that the VLP status provides. That's balancing mechanism wider access, and that's gone very well. It was possible to commission that site remotely, which is a something of a first. We would normally like to attend every site, and in this case, the support of the site staff who would normally be there anyway. The company concerned is in the food industry. They would expect to be on site. So they were able to do everything that we needed them to do that would normally be done by a mixture of them and our engineers, was done entirely by them. So huge credit and gratitude to them for pulling out the stops and making that happen. Since then, it's had a fair bit of activity. It's fast acting, so that particular site has battery capacity, which is proved to be quite important, partly because of the speed it can offer, which is something that makes it stand out in the National Grid control room.
Regarding the energy storage sector, what is your opinion? I mean, in terms of its growth, do you think that, is it true that energy storage has strengthened its presence during the last 12 months?
Yeah, I think that is true. I think that there was perhaps a nadir in people's expectations of the market, maybe about a year ago, and I think that has picked up. I think that there's been stabilization in frequency response prices, which are very important to storage developers. There was the net zero by 2050 carbon target. That's hugely important, because in order to achieve net zero by 2050, you've got to achieve an awful lot in the next 5 years. The continuing growth in renewables absolutely delivers a sort of fundamental that underlies the business case of energy storage. So yeah, we've certainly seen optimism return to the market, and some investment decisions going ahead that we're very pleased by.
What do you think that it is the main concern from all these businesses that they want to achieve this net zero target?
I think that there are businesses where the net zero target is essentially something that they perhaps regard as the environment in which they operate, and there are also businesses that see the target as being something that their customers demand of them anyway. I'd say that's always been the distinction that you would draw in terms of the environmental approach of businesses getting on with their day job. What the net zero target does is it sort of brings that together. So even the businesses that would perhaps not consider themselves to be customer facing, that simply work within the rules of the market as they find them, there is now no difference between an energy manager in that situation will behave relative in comparison to somebody in a customer facing business, because the environment they work in is now the same. And I think that's one of the so the net zero target has some very important, should we call them non-linear effects, where it's not just about cranking up a number, it's about making a qualitative change to how people behave. So zero carbon net is very different to an 80% reduction. It's not just 20% better, it's qualitatively better.
So what do you think about the UK businesses? How close they are to achieving this net zero goal?
Well, there's obviously massive variety between the different sectors. We work with some companies where electricity is their number one cost, and for them there are two sides to that. The first is external, so the resource that provides the electricity that they use is something that's determined by a mixture of industry investment and government policy. So we still have that mix of nuclear, gas, wind, solar, hydro that dominates and wind that dominates the picture. And in a simple analysis, they just see that grid carbon coming to them at whatever level it's at. And now, of course, I mean, with National Grid's new app that gives them geographical visibility of carbon intensity, they can see that on a real-time basis for their location. But that then takes you into the next area, which is how businesses can respond to that, and that's where we think the change will come. Where you have flexibility in an industrial process, if you want to run that economically and green, those two things go together very clearly now, very nicely. And what an industrial and commercial energy manager can do now is to use the flexibility that they have to align their consumption with the greenest and cheapest periods in the grid. So if you have optionality in what you're doing, it is worthwhile, for example, ramping up production over this bank holiday weekend, because electricity, the system is going to be long, quite a lot. The national demand figures will be at a historic low, and with solar being present for the first 2 days and wind being a big factor over the latter 2 days, you're going to see a lot of renewable energy around, and business can put that to work.
So Alastair, thank you very much for your time. It was really good talking to you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.